Welcome, fellow historians, to a journey beyond the known chronicles of the Imperium. We often speak of Paul Atreides, the rise of the God Emperor, and the scattering. The forgotten lore, decipher the cryptic symbols, and piece together the epic sagas that shaped humanity's destiny among the stars. Subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss our first expedition into the deep past. The spice isn't the only treasure Arrakis holds.
Paul Atreides did not fear death. He feared the future, because when the visions came, they did not arrive as dreams. They arrived as certainties. Empires are burning like funeral pyres, crowds chanting his name over oceans of blood, banners raised in devotion and in terror. He saw humanity kneeling before him, and he saw himself become something ancient, something final, a god forged from necessity, a tyrant crowned by destiny. The future did not ask Paul if he wanted it. It only asked if he would submit. And in every path he tried to escape, the same shadow waited at the end. Because the most dangerous future is not the one you choose. It is the one who believes it is inevitable. And Paul Atreides saw it all. And then he tried to stop it. In the Chronicles of the Imperium, Paul Atreides is remembered as a conqueror, a prophet, a messiah crowned in sand and fire. But the older histories whisper a darker truth. Paul did not seek the future that followed him. He ran from it. As a boy of Caladan, he learned that power always wears a mask. As a son of Duk Leto, he learned that honor is fragile. And on Arrakis, beneath the burning gaze of Shai-Hulud, he learned the most terrible lesson of all. To see the future is to lose the freedom to ignore it. The spice opened Paul's mind beyond time. Past and future collapsed into a single merciless horizon. Every choice echoed forward. Every hesitation became history. From the viewpoint of an in-universe historian, Paul was trapped by prophecy from our own world. He was trapped by something more familiar, the fear that absolute certainty destroys moral choice. Because when you know what will happen, can you still claim responsibility for what you do? Paul believed the answer was yes, and that belief would damn him. But first, we must understand how his vision was born. Long before Paul Atreides became a prophecy, he was an experiment, not born by accident, not shaped by chance, but engineered. The Bene Gesserit called it patience. Bloodlines are measured in centuries. Marriages are planned like military campaigns. Children conceived not for love, but for outcome. They sought the Kwisatz Haderach, a mind that could stand where theirs could not, a being who could see both paths of time, male and female memory, past and future, folded together, power refined into flesh. Paul Atreides was never meant to be born when he was. Lady Jessica disobeyed. She gave Duk Leto a son instead of daughter. Love, in that moment, shattered a 1,000-year design, and the universe never forgave her for it. On Caladan, Paul Atreides grew surrounded by water and restraint. Gray skies, salt air, honor taught like sacred geometry. Duk Leto believed leadership was service. That power must kneel before responsibility, that a ruler should fear becoming feared. These lessons shaped Paul's conscience. But conscience alone does not survive contact with destiny. Because Paul Atreides was trained for more than morality, he learned the way of the Mentad, cold logic, probability stacked like crystal lattices. He learned the disciplines of Bene Gesserit, control of breath, control of pain, control of the body as an instrument. Even as a child, he was being sharpened. Then came Arrakis, a planet that did not nurture. It tested. The transfer of House Atreides to Arrakis was presented as an honor. In truth, it was execution delayed. The Harkonnen trap was already set. GD Prime waited in the background like a clenched fist, and Imperium watched in silence. It was here, under twin suns and endless dust, that Paul's visions began to change. Not vague impressions, not half-remembered dreams, but branching futures. He saw himself as Mu-Add. He saw FREH men warriors screaming his name. He saw jihad carried across stars. And every vision carried the same taste. Iron, ash, blood. At first, Paul Atreides believed knowledge could save him. If he understood the future, he could choose differently. This was the men that assumption. Data produces control. But prescience does not behave like information. It behaves like gravity. The more Paul saw, the fewer paths remained open. The future did not expand. It collapsed. From an in-universe perspective, this was the moment destiny claimed him. The spice melange unlocked the door, but the door opened inward. From a philosophical lens, Paul encountered a paradox humanity has always feared. If every outcome is visible, is choice an illusion? On Arrakis, Paul learned that the FRH men were not merely survivors. They were a people shaped by prophecy. The Lys and Algabe legend seated among them by the Bene Gesserit generations earlier. A manufactured myth, waiting for a host. Paul Atreides fit too perfectly, and that terrified him, because belief is heavier than chains. And once a population believes, the future hardens. After the fall of House Atreides, after blood soaked the sand, Paul fled into the desert, into the arms of the prophecy he feared. Stilgar did not see a boy. He saw fulfillment. CHH Nay did not see a conqueror. She saw inevitability. And Paul Atreides saw something worse. He saw that resistance strengthened the vision. Every attempt to step aside bent the timeline tighter around him. Here lies the cruel irony. Paul did not seek power. Power sought him because the future required a shape, a face, a voice, a symbol. And symbols do not get to refuse. There's a moment in every prophecy where resistance ends, not with surrender, but with calculation. Paul Atreides did not awaken among the FRH men as a god. He awakened as a strategist trapped inside a vision. Every night, the future whispered. Every breath of spice sharpened images. Battles mapped in advance. Deaths already counted. Not just enemies, friends, lovers, children yet unborn. Paul learned that prescience is not sight. It is burden. From in-universe Chronicles, this was a rise of Muadd, the desert mouse. Small, unassuming, able to survive what others could not. But survival came at a cost. To lead the FRH men was to weaponize belief. Their faith was absolute. Their suffering is ancient. They did not follow Paul because he commanded them. They followed him because the future told them to. And the future does not negotiate. Paul saw countless timelines. In some, he died quickly, a blade in the dark, a forgotten name buried in sand. But in every timeline where Paul died early, humanity stagnated. Civilizations rotted in comfort. The Imperium calcified. Power consolidated. Innovation suffocated. The species survived, but it stopped becoming. This was a cruel bargain hidden inside Paul's vision. To avoid becoming a tyrant was to allow extinction by stillness. So Paul chose a lesser horror. He embraced a role he despised, not because he wanted it, but because every alternative was worse. This is the central conflict of Paul's life. Not good versus evil, but atrocity versus annihilation. The spice melange did not show in victory. It showed in the necessity. To defeat Har Kunin tyranny, he had to become something feared. To break the Padishah throne, Padishah power itself had to tremble. The SAR Dalkar were legends, forged in brutality, trained in despair. Paul saw how to break them, not through strength, but through myth. When Pawl Atreides confronted the Imperium, he did not bring armies alone. He brought inevitability. The FRH men did not fight as soldiers. They fought as believers, and belief changes physics. Each victory fed the prophecy. Each victory narrowed the future further. The jihad Paul feared did not wait for his command. It organized itself around him. From a philosophical lens, Paul crossed the point of no return the moment he accepted more responsibility for futures he had not yet caused. He told himself this violence was preventative, that it would end once stability was achieved. That control could be relinquished later. History laughs at such promises. When Paul took the throne, the Imperium cheered. The Carino line fell. The land's rod bent the knee. The universe exhaled, and then the killing began. Across star systems, Muad'Dib's name became a war cry, not spoken by Paul, but spoken for him. Billions died in his shadow. And here lies the most tragic irony of PAWL Atreides. He never commanded the jihad, but he made it possible by becoming the symbol of destiny required, by allowing the future to use him as its instrument. From the perspective of an in-universe historian, Paul ruled reluctantly, with sorrow, with restraint. But restraint does not undo momentum. From our own philosophical distance, Paul represents the danger of moral certainty amplified by power. When leaders believe their actions are justified by the future, present suffering becomes acceptable. Paul tried to soften the blow, to minimize casualties, to choose paths where fewer died. But Prescience does not offer mercy, only optimization. And optimization still kills. There were moments when Paul considered abdication, walking into the desert, letting history devour itself. But every time he looked, the visions returned. Humanity calloused, absent inward, stagnant, predictable, dying not with fire, but with comfort. Paul understood something few rulers ever do, that his reign was not the disease. It was a symptom. The Imperium was already sick. He was simply the fever. And so PAWL Atreides ruled as an emperor who hated the throne, a prophet who distrusted prophecy, a god who knew that gods are mistakes. But knowing the danger does not grant escape, because the future Paul feared most was not the one where he ruled forever. It was the one where he ruled just long enough to make something worse inevitable. And when the visions finally showed him what came after, Paul understood why he had always been afraid. Because his golden vision was not about him at all. It was about what he refused to become, and what someone else would have to be instead. The tragedy of Paul Atreides is not that he failed. It is what he understood, in the deepest layers of his prescient sight. Paul saw a path he would never walk, a future colder than tyranny, longer than the empire, a future without choice preserved by force. The golden path, from the records of a universe historians. This knowledge was Paul's final burden, a vision so absolute it eclipsed all others. Humanity stretched across millennia, alive, enduring, but frozen beneath the weight of absolute control. Paul saw a god-emperor ruling not decades, but thousands of years, a being who would strangle stagnation by becoming it, a ruler who would deny humanity freedom, so that freedom might someday return. And Paul recoiled, because to walk that path required something Paul could not surrender, his humanity. From a philosophical standpoint, Paul stands at the intersection of determinism and moral agency. He knew what had to be done. He knew the outcome, and yet he refused. This is a paradox that defines him. Paul rejected the golden path, not because it was cruel, but because it was complete. It left no room for error, no room for rebellion, no room for becoming. It was salvation without consent. Paul believed that even extinction was preferable to eternal domination. This is where PAWL Atreides diverges from every tyrant history has known. Most rulers justify cruelty by ignorance. Paul justified restraint by knowledge. He could have become the ultimate guardian, the eternal shepherd of humanity, a God who never blinked. Instead, he chose blindness. When Paul walked in the desert, eyes burned away, guided only by vision. It was not an escape. It was abdication. He stepped aside from the future because he feared what certainly would make him. From an in-universe perspective, this act was seen as a weakness, a prophet abandoning his people, an emperor fleeing responsibility. But from a philosophical lens, it was the last true choice Paul ever made, to refuse godhood. Paul understood something most civilizations learn too late. The greatest threat to humanity is not chaos. It is in perfect order. Stagnation dressed as peace. Safety is enforced by omniscience. A future where nothing unexpected can survive. The golden path required a ruler without hesitation, without doubt, without mercy for individuality. Paul still felt too much. He loved Chhne. He mourned the dead. He remembered childhood reign on Caladan. He still believed that suffering mattered, even if it served a purpose. and that belief disqualified him. This is where Leto the Second enters history's shadow, the son who inherited the vision Paul rejected, the sacrifice Paul could not make. From a modern philosophical perspective, Paul's story is a warning about leadership, technology, and foresight in an age obsessed with prediction, algorithms forecasting behavior, data anticipating desire, systems optimizing outcomes. Paul asks a dangerous question. If we can see the future, should we control it? Or does control erase the very thing we're trying to save? Paul's failure is often framed as cowardice, but it may be the most human act in the entire saga. He chose uncertainty over domination, risk of suffocation, freedom over survival guaranteed by chains. And yet, the universe paid the price. This is the final cruelty of Paul's golden vision. By refusing the path, he did not destroy it. He delayed it. The future did not disappear. It only waited. Paul Atreides teaches us that foresight does not grant wisdom, that knowledge without restraint becomes tyranny, and that even the most righteous cause can become monstrous when justified by inevitability. He saw the end of history, and he blinked, not because he was blind, but because he was afraid of seeing forever. And in that fear, humanity remained human for a little while longer. Paul Atreides did not fail the future. He spared it from himself. History remembers him as a conqueror, a prophet, a god crowned in spice and fire. But the deeper truth is quieter. Paul was a man who saw too much and chose to stop looking. He understood that destiny, once accepted, demands obedience, that certainty erases mercy, that a future without risk is not a future worth inheriting. So he stepped away, into blindness, into legend, not because he was weak, but because he was afraid of becoming perfect. The golden path still came, through another, at a greater cost, because some futures cannot be avoided, only postponed, only inherited. Paul Atreides teaches us that the most dangerous power is not violence, but foresight without humility, that to rule tomorrow absolutely is to kill today slowly. And when the dust settles on Arrakis, when the echoes fade, one truth remains. The greatest sacrifice Paul ever made was not his throne, not his sight, but his willingness to let humanity choose, even if that choice led to darkness. Because history does not belong to gods. It belongs to those who dare to walk forward without knowing where the path ends. And remember this, the future is never truly inevitable until someone decides it must be